Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION, in all caps. We got a great show today with our personal friend, not a personal friend of mine today, but a personal friend of Colby's, because he and I are beefing, and that is Mike Grinnell from Spit and Chiclets. We'll get into that as soon as he hops on, making up fake text messages and whatnot. So we'll have to uncover all that stuff. But a lot of hockey last night. The San Jose Sharks have quietly won 3 out of 4 games. A beautiful overtime winner by Alex Wemberg last night. I'm sure a lot of people were up late tuning into the Sharks game. But more hockey to talk about. And Colby, you're all smiley. Your thoughts on last night, this morning, today? Beautiful day on the East Coast. It's going to be like 80 degrees today. I'm fired up to go rollerblading a little bit later.
So I'll be honest with you. For the first time since we started doing this show, I did not watch hockey last night. I really didn't. I tried, and I just found myself looking at my phone, like refreshing, Decision HQ desk and whatnot. So this morning I got up and I tried to play catch up as much as I could. I'm glad that Mike Grinnell is coming on the show. We will have to ask him. Because look, all I can tell you is I've heard his name as a supposed guest on our show since like our first ever week of Morning Cup of Hockey. Now, I've never confirmed that. Our producer has never confirmed that.
Whoa, no. Vic had confirmed that. There was a time last year where G was ready to come on.
This is the first time I've ever asked him to come on. And honestly, I texted him. Less than 30 seconds later, I got a text back. Sure, I would literally when like he was really excited to come on, and now it makes me wonder about your handling of securing guests, because you always have a story and something happened, and this person's traveling to Iceland this week, and there's always something, and now I'm just starting to question it all based on how willing and how easy it was to get G to come on our show. This is a guy that our producer and I have been wanting on here forever. So that was just the first thing I wanted to say. I just want to say one more thing. Obviously,
I would hate to cut you off.
A big election last night in the United States. We're not going to talk politics. We do have people from both sides of probably, opinions in the aisle that come into our chat. And all I would tell everybody is if you're on the winning side of it, be humble. Okay. And if you're on the losing side of it, make sure you're a gracious loser and a humble winner. And that's all. We're not going to go into the election. We're not going to get into it in the chat. Some people are happy. Some people aren't. Just remember that today. Be a humble winner or a gracious loser, because everybody knows what it's like to be on the right or wrong side of these things, depending on how you look at it. So, without further ado, unless you did want to say something else, or you wanted to read him in, since I know you're going to ask him to go on a rollerblading date later, but why don't I let you read him in?
Honestly, I probably will ask him to do that because it's going to be such a nice day. But before we bring on our friend Mike Grinnell, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. And look at this guy, sun glaring. He's glowing. I kind of hate him.
Sun is brutal right now.
But can I put you on the hot seat and make you spin your camera? Let's see how that office looks right now, because it was a shit show last week when I was at your apartment.
It actually looks gorgeous right now. Nice and clean. It's great.
Is that a Krejci Winter Classic jersey, G?
Yeah, it is. It's actually, my dad got it for me for Christmas a couple of years ago, and then he came to like the Boston live show we did this year, and I'm like, "Are you wearing the signed Krejci jersey that you got me for Christmas like 10 years ago?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You can't do that. You can't wear signed jerseys." So he framed it for me.
Is that OG Winter Classic jersey though? Like the first one at Fenway, like in 2007 or 8 maybe?
2010, I believe.
10. Okay, 10. All right. Yeah. Wow, that's good stuff.
I sat behind a pole. That entire game, and I actually fell asleep during the game. I was like a junior in high school. I was so hungover. It's hilarious. I remember the guy next to me shaking me, being like, "They scored." I was like, "What?"
I will say though, like I'm not big on like actually watching the Winter Classic in person. Like, I think it's much better to watch on TV. I think it's a cooler spectacle on TV. But being at Fenway, I've been to like a couple of the venues now. I think Fenway was probably one of the best viewing experiences as far as those go. Like,
Really?
on
You
the
think
green.
it's better on TV? I feel like they do it for the fans who go
No,
there.
but I'm saying if you're watching the game, you can't really see shit.
So
when you're at the game.
I'm just gonna jump in here really quickly. I was fortunate for years to call the Frozen the Winter Classic for Westwood One Radio, only because every other team would be playing a game, so all the good announcers were busy. So I would kind of get it by default. It's just the reality. There were plenty of guys way ahead of me for that gig, but by default, I did that. So I did like 4 in a row. Being at ice level for that, because you call the game at the Winter Classic from the glass, which is it's challenging, but I'm going to push back and say that being at them, Johnny, and seeing the spectacle and the fanfare and all that is amazing. And then I'll give you one further. The first ever Winter Classic,
viewing the game.
The first ever Winter Classic.
I'm with Colby.
I was at playing at go ahead, everyone, take a drink. I was playing at BU, and we played the next Saturday. So Bruins played the Flyers on the previous, like for the Winter Classic. The following weekend, we did BU-BC. Sold it out. My parents left, and family left the game to go watch a game on, G, because none of them could see a thing.
Yeah, Fenway's tough. But, hey, is that the one where Warsofsky scored and did the – Oh, that was sick. I think I was there for that.
He hit one over the Green Monster. He pretended like he hit one over the Green Monster. Yeah, and that was all premeditated, by the way.
Oh, was it?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
He was so good in college. You remember how sick Warsofsky was?
Yeah. And you know what? He went on to have a really good pro career, played in Europe. He probably played 75 games in the National Hockey League, which for a guy his size, I mean, not an easy thing to do. And then his brother now is a head coach in the National Hockey League.
He's a guy who definitely would benefit more from this new age NHL.
Why is that?
The Adam Foxes, the Cale Makars, the more like, shifty puck moving defenseman, less clutching, grabbing, all that kind of stuff.
He was a couple
of
years
mobile hips.
But look, a phenomenal Boston hockey player. And G, that's one of the main reasons we wanted to bring you on today, because you're just not used to seeing what you saw last night between a Bruins and a Leafs game. You're really not. And we've got someone in our chat who came here specifically to come for you today. G, I mean, he came here for you to want to try to dunk on anything and everything you said about the Boston Bruins. But what is happening on Causeway Street right now? Because this is foreign territory. Oh, we lost your mic.
Yep, I think you're muted. Did you put headphones in or something?
Things are not great right now, I would say. But I mean, I don't think it's time to completely panic. I don't want to go too rumor boys here, but I did get some texts last night. I think Monty is definitely on the hot seat. I think that's for sure. But then you hear things like what Elliot Friedman was saying on 32 Thoughts this week, where Don Sweeney wasn't on the road trip this past weekend, which made you believe that they are not potentially moving on from Monty. So who knows? But I also got this text, this stat sent to me last night from Biz, which is, I feel like a testament as to what's going wrong this season. The Bruins allowed 3 power play goals in a game for the 4th time in 14 games this year. They allowed 3 power play goals in a game 4 times in the previous 547 games.
Wow.
So like the dumb penalties, it's every night. And you don't want to point fingers, but like Zadorov leading the team in penalties right now, I don't think he's had one fight. So that's a bit concerning.
Don't want to point fingers, but Zadorov.
Yeah, I mean, I like the guy, great dude, but like at the same, like it's been a tough start for him, I'd say, in Boston. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, outside of the penalties, they can't create offense, and I would ask you, Colby. You've been in the NHL locker room before, right? So isn't the coach the guy you point the finger at when the team keeps getting penalties and can't, create offense?
When it's self-inflicted, I think you definitely look at the coach, and discipline is one of those things that you just watch Cam Neely up in his suite or up on 9 whenever there's a bad penalty taken, and the disgust that he has within his face. It's just not something that is familiar, to be honest, because it hasn't mattered whether it's been Monty, whether it was Butch, whether it's going back to Claude. This has not been a thing for a very, very long time. And I think you start to look at leadership, and I'm certainly, look, I'm a big fan of what Brad Marchand is, and I'm not piling on him right now. This guy went through a lot this summer, and I think unfortunately it's going to take him a minute to kind of get himself back to it. But look, I think that the turnovers, I think when you start seeing those types of players not holding themselves accountable, I do think that is a reflection on the coach, the guy standing behind him. And I could tell you this, even going back to last year, Monty does at some points rub certain guys the wrong way, and I think that's okay. But I do think you have to treat, like, every player is treated differently in the National Hockey League. It's saying it's a one-size-fits-all approach is not the reality. And so I think Monty's got to be careful, because I worry about the locker room, and I really do. You don't have the reinforcements that you used to have to hold up that locker room. You just don't have it.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree. And I think last night was probably the first time where I was like, me and Dan Powers are texting about it. Like, for the first time, it was like, maybe moving on from Monty would be the play here. Maybe if that's what's going to, because this team is 109 points last season and they added, they only got better. So there's no reason they shouldn't be taking this step back. It makes no sense. And so I have a question for you guys as well. And this was a conversation we've been having in the Chiclets chat, and we had it on the Chiclets pod this past week. But Biz has always said bigger players take longer to get going in the season for a number of reasons, but
bigger players is in physical size.
Physically bigger players take longer to really get going into the season. And I think Witt pushed back on him and disagreed with him, but that was something I've agreed with every time essentially Biz says it. I'd love to hear your guys' take on that, because as you guys know, Bruins have the biggest team in the NHL this season. So could that be it? And then there's also the Brad Marchand factor, and Colby, you kind of mentioned it, but this team goes as Brad Marchand goes. He had 3 surgeries this summer. Like, we can't forget that aspect of all this.
I mean, listen, the bigger guys take longer. I'm going to be honest, I've never even heard that opinion before. And Florida was a big blue line last year. They got going right off the bat, right? Like, I don't know if that's what would be the reasoning for that? Everyone comes into camp in good condition. Well,
one of the that's where Witt pushed back. But I think one of the things that Biz said as well was the way the game is called. He said there's a lot more penalties called in the early part of the season that basically doesn't benefit bigger guys. So I don't know, but that's what I'm telling myself right now.
That seems like a huge excuse. Yeah,
but here's my issue. The eye test of the Bruins bothers me a little bit right now, and not as much about creating offense and more about why they're not creating offense. And when you really look up and down that lineup, Vic, maybe you could, as we're kind of talking a little bit here, you could pull up the Daily Faceoffs website and we can show everybody the lineup we're talking about. I see them a step late to every puck battle. I mean, it's easy to just say they're slow. Sure, they've got bigger guys that are not, necessarily the quickest guys. They're not bad skaters, right? But their quickness is just not quite there. And a guy like Zadorov, like, he skates well enough to play in the NHL, but his quickness is a little bit of a problem. And when you watch, right, the Bruins, generally speaking, have been a team that wins more puck battles than they lose. But when you are a second late to every puck battle, what happens? You play at the end of your stick, your reach, you end up with more stick penalties. You end up with more one arm holding. So you're just a little bit behind the 8 ball. And I just think that the 2 big names they brought in are not players that are quick players. And I just look at the size, and like, even Brandon Carlo, he's a good skater, but he's not quick. Like, he moves fine. And so then you start going through that D list and that D core, and like, Lorai, I know, has been a little bit in and out, right?
Yeah, but Colby, that's what I just wanted to bring up. Like Sharma in the chat here just mentioned that. Like,
he's the one going after you.
Why isn't Mason Lorai playing more?
He
you need to create more offense. That guy's doing backhand toeies in the playoff in Game 7. Like, why aren't we playing
exactly
him?
Why? I'll tell you exactly
Get Peak out of there. Get Witherspoon out of there. I want to see Lorai.
When you're worried about your job as a coach, and there's no way in hell Monty isn't at least looking over his shoulder. He's too smart, right? You want to play guys that are safer players. And even though Witherspoon and Peak do not have these long, extensive resumes, they're bigger than Mason Lorai. And with Lorai, some shifts are a little bit of an adventure because that's part of being a young defenseman, right? You could say the same thing about Charlie, even, throughout his. So that is why when a coach feels heat, they automatically default to safer. And the third pair with Peak and Witherspoon, or a combination of those, it's just safer. It really
can't sit right in the locker room, though, right? Like you're 6-7 right now. You can't create offense. You see Mason Lorai every day at practice, what he's capable of doing, and you're like, that's when people say Monty's losing the room. That's one of the things I feel like that could lose the room.
I'm also curious, G. I mean, you watch every Bees game. Like, how's Jeremy Swayman doing taking on the full load of being a starting goalie? He's started 10 out of 14 games. That's something that he's not used to doing. I know his numbers aren't as impressive as what they've been. And I'm not saying it's Swayman's fault. I haven't tuned into every Bees game, but that's something also where Swayman's a guy who is playing now, full NHL minutes, I guess, for a goalie, where he hasn't done that before.
Yeah, I don't think Swayman's gotten off to the start that he's wanted to. But I'm actually pretty surprised with Korpisalo. Korpisalo's looked good his past.
Which everybody said this could work here for Korpisalo. People did say that.
Oh yeah, I said I'd rather have kidney stones again than watch Korpisalo play for the Bruins. Yeah. So I think
but also just
pretty wrong there.
Looking at the numbers, though, both goalies right now are at a .894 save percentage, and Korpisalo has actually a 2.70 goals against, and Swayman has a 3.14. Like, it's not great goaltending that you're getting.
No, it's definitely not great, but the defense hasn't been great either.
But do you think I feel like everyone in the previous years were like Swayman and Ullmark were so good because the blue line in front of them was so strong. Like, do you think Swayman and Ullmark were really just that much better as the tandem, and maybe now we're seeing what the team really was when they're not getting above, sub or like elite goaltending?
But hold on a second. Who did the Bruins decor lose from last year?
They lost Grizzlick. They lost
Kevin Shattenkirk.
Shattenkirk.
And again, I mean, like, literally the something were to ever happen to me, that's literally who steps in and takes my kid. So I'm literally talking about my best friend in the world right now, but we can't honestly look at each other and say they got worse defensively by losing Matt Grizzlick and Shatty.
No,
we can't honestly say that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying people always said how good Boston Z was, but maybe it really was the goaltending that just overshadowed everything.
I think it's team defense too. Like, I don't think we should just point at the defenseman. Like, I think the offense has always played, good both sides of the puck. You know what I mean? You had 4 lines that could play 2 ways, and I don't think you're seeing that much this season.
Yeah, it's look, there's just so much more noise coming out of Boston, and I think it started with Cam Neely. I think it started with Don Sweeney talking about, and I quote, the spitting on yourself podcast.
Spitting up on yourself.
Spitting up on yourself podcast.
Yes.
There's been uncharacteristic noise. And the last kind of thing I want to say about it is Don Sweeney's a very patient guy. Cam Neely is not. And I assume right now that's the tug of war that's happening right now in the offices is Cam's pulling one way, Donnie's probably pulling another way. Because look, how many coaches is Donnie going to get? He's done a phenomenal job, that guy, but you do only get a certain amount of coaches as a general manager.
Yeah. Until what, like, it's so tough. Cause like I had a long conversation about this last night where like the Bruins need guys on entry-level contracts to contribute, which they don't have, right? I feel like the only guy they have on an entry-level contract right now that could contribute is is a health bomb every night in Mason Lohrei. So like you're just not getting, they're not drafting, they're not developing, which is a huge issue. You can go out and take Jeremy Jacobs' checkbook and sign whoever you want and make these trades at the deadline, which he's done a fantastic job. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he's been a deadline wizard, but you need to draft and develop, which I just don't feel like they've been able to do. So I think Don Sweeney should be on the hot seat. No question.
Yeah.
I think absolutely Don Sweeney should be on the hot seat.
It just might be time. It just might be time. Like, you've done a good job. We've been together forever, but now it's time to spread our wings. Like we literally talked about this yesterday, where sometimes it doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It's just, hey, it's time for a new voice. I always equate it to Andy Reid. Look at Bill Belichick in New England. Like, it ends for everybody at some point.
And I speaking of kind of going back to Monty, I want to ask you guys, do you guys pay any mind into Joe Sacco? Well, also, Monty, his contract's up at the end of the year. Joe Sacco, this offseason was promoted from assistant coach to associate head coach. Where do you guys stand on that? Like, I've heard from people that Sacco was essentially told, like, you're our guy. You're up next. You're next here for us if something goes awry this season. Like, do you pay any mind into that? The promotion?
That's a Colby question for sure.
Well, I played for Joe in my limited in my limited time in the National Hockey League. So I'm a fan. I think
talk about him. I want to know about him.
So here's the thing. When I played for him, he was a head coach versus an assistant coach, right? Different level of personality, kind of different role or whatever. But I'll say this, like, he seemed to get a lot out of the group. Again, like, you had some aging veterans on that team with Hayduk and Foote and like some of those big names. And then you also had this new young crop of Stewart and Stasny and Ryan O'Reilly and Matt Duchene. So it was literally this sort of, bookended type of team with not a lot in the middle, right? And I thought he did a pretty good job of working with the veteran players. That was so long ago, though. Like, we're talking 2010, so we're 14 years ago with that. I've heard that he's had multiple head coaching offers, and I actually know of one that he was offered that he turned down because he just didn't want to move across to the other coast and move his family and be a part of a rebuild. So, it makes a lot of sense to me. You also have Jay Leach, who's really qualified back there, and they've worked together in Boston pre-Monty with Bruce Cassidy. So there's a lot of, synergy there. I think that probably makes this decision a little easier because you have Joe Sacco on the bench.
But I want to ask a question to G2, because this is a conversation that we had on Monday when we were really talking about the Bruins. And this is something where, Colby kind of dunked on me because I spoke a little bit falsely, I guess would be the word. But gee, like, if you bring in another coach, are you really getting that much more out of this roster than Monty has gotten? I mean, the last two regular seasons have been definitely above expectations for what the teams were on paper. And, in the playoffs, you run into a wagon of a Florida Panthers team. Like, I just don't think someone comes in to coach the Bruins right now and gets more than what we've already seen out of them as an overall result.
Quinville.
I don't know. The Bruins,
their roster's not that good. They're just
I don't know. I mean, they had the best regular season record in NHL history 2 seasons ago. Like, getting bounced in the first round, I don't think that's successful for Monty. I don't think you can look at that season and say that
we argue about this, G, all the time.
Especially if, like, we're talking Boston here, Johnny. I know you haven't had a cup since like 1994 in New York, but like we want Stanley Cups here. We want to win. So we
want regular season championships.
Yeah, you just want regular season banners that you can hang at MSG next to the Taylor Swift banner. The Bruins want to win. They should be winning now. Getting bounced in the first round, second round is an unsuccessful season. So I would say Monty's time here, you could say he's got the team to perform above what they are on paper, but it's still not a successful run yet. They have to win the Stanley Cup in order for it to be a successful tenure for Monty.
All right, but let me ask you this. Like, where do you put the Bruins if you're ranking best teams in the NHL that actually have a legit chance to win the Cup? Because I don't even see them really in the top 7.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys know how the playoffs is. Once the playoffs start, anyone can get hot and anyone can go on a run. But that's it. That's just recency bias, though, Johnny. Like, going into this season, weren't they your cup pick?
No.
Oh, I thought you had them in Edmonton.
No, I had Dallas and Toronto as my final, and I have Dallas.
Okay,
winning.
well, a lot of people did have them as their cup pick to start the season. So, I mean, I don't know.
Where the hell did you get that from? That I had Boston.
Well, I
as my
think
cup
the
pick?
other thing. I think the other
don't
thing that we have to make sure that we're on the same page about, or at least call out, is it's what, November 6th. So we're a couple weeks away from American Thanksgiving, which we know is a very important date. They're not out of it, right, by any means. Yeah, last night didn't look good, but coming off of 2 shutouts that they had the other way. I mean, look, I'm not suggesting things are good in Boston by any means. I'm just making sure we're not talking about a team that's like 1-7 or 1-8, or we're talking about a team that's hovering around 500, a team that has David Pastrnak, who's not playing great hockey right now, but will, and again, Charlie McAvoy, all these things. So I do think there are some other factors. And I think somebody actually made a good point in the chat. I can't remember who said it, but it's up a little further. Don Sweeney's putting together Team Canada right now, right? So he's kind of GMing 2 teams, and you just have to wonder, like, it's got to take some of his attention away. I'm not suggesting he's slacking, but like, let's say there's only 24 hours in a day. There's got to be some hours going towards Team Canada that otherwise these GMs, like, they work 24 hours a day on their team. So I think that's a fair point to bring up and talk about.
I don't really think I wish I could point the finger at Don for that, but I don't like. Aren't there like 6 GMs of Team Canada right now?
There
Kyle
are.
Dubas has been at like 3 Ranger games this year.
but that's, again, and you're wearing the both hat. Like, when you're scouting a game for Team Canada, it's not as if you're not doing pro scouting reports then for your own team for the trade deadline and later. So, and that kind of, honestly, one of the reasons I wanted to bring that up is because I know, look, you're a big Bruins fan, but you're also a big hockey fan. Like, you're part of one of the most influential group of voices in the sport, period. And earlier in the week, Frank Saravalli and the team at the DFO put out projections for the Four Nations Cup, which isn't very far away. Like, we're not that far out from the Four Nations Cup, and some of it will be taking place in Boston. I don't know if you got a chance to see that. I'll drop this article in the chat so everybody can read it if they want to. But just out of curiosity, G, like, where do you sit with Team USA? What are your expectations? Is there any big surprises you're expecting to make the team? And are you thinking these guys are going to go all out, or is it going to be more of an all-star game feel?
No, I think these guys have been wanting best on best for years, and I think they're going to go all out. I think this will be very similar to what we saw at the World Cup of Hockey a few years ago. Hopefully we don't see any big injuries come out of it, but I mean, I think this is going to be incredible. I think USA is going to put on a show. I haven't seen gambling lines yet, but I don't understand how USA couldn't be the betting favorite heading into this. Like, I'm looking, Vic just sent over that article, and I'm looking at it now. Like, I mean, Team Canada's defense, Noah Dobson, second pair. I don't know. Like, I'm siding with Team USA. The goalies for Team Canada, like, what are we talking about here? Jordan Binnington has to be the guy, but Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson is your 2 backups. I don't know. I like Swayman, Hellebuck, Ottinger in for Team USA more. And then, like, Team Sweden's going to be sick as well. So I don't think this is going to be, I mean, Finland, now I'm looking at Finland's roster as well, and they're going to be pretty sick too. So I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk for Canada by any means. I don't think this will be a cakewalk for any team. I think any team could go in and win this. But I think, I don't know how USA wouldn't be betting favorites. And just like seeing like the Kachucks potentially play on a line together, how good for hockey would that be? Team Canada having the Nova Scotian line with Marchand, Crosby, and McKinnon. That would be so good for hockey.
Yeah.
This whole thing is going to be amazing for hockey.
Are you on Frank? The biggest surprise for me on Frank's projections is he had Brett Pesce in the 7 hole for Team USA's D, and there was no no Zach Werenski. And like, I could see that because you've got Quinn Hughes, you've got Fox, you've got McAvoy. You, in my opinion, you have to have Faber on that team with how good he has become in such a short period of time in the National Hockey League. But like, those are all power play guys. You know, Faber's not a power play guy on Team USA. So like, with your seventh defenseman, like, you know, Faber makes sense. Sanderson makes sense. Slavin makes sense. Pesce makes sense. Now, I think in the Olympics, Alex Vlasic ends up on that team picking off a guy like Brett Pesce. But is that surprising to you that there's no Zach Werenski?
Yeah, that's very surprising. I mean, when you say that, I would say it makes sense to an extent, but I don't know if Zach Werenski is the odd man out for me. Like, I would probably take Werenski over Faber, to be honest with you, just with, you know, Werenski's experience with just everything. I think, you know, his leadership on and off the ice. I don't see Werenski getting cut. I mean, Frank's way more in the mix than I am, but I can't see how has I haven't watched much Columbus to start the season.
He's been good.
I watched them last night. Their game last night in San Jose was actually a great hockey game.
They're a fun team to watch from what I've heard this season.
Yeah.
He's having a good season, but I just look at the mix and I just feel like you've got to be careful that you don't have too many of the same guy. And I just think, you know, Slavin, Faber are kind of one type of player. Sanderson's kind of a hybrid, a big, you know, and then Charlie and Quinn Hughes, like that is a top pair. Although, you know, you might need, like, Charlie and Quinn Hughes are roamers, right? Like, unless Charlie says, okay, like, I'm willing to kind of fall back a little bit here, which is probably hard. What makes him so effective is how sort of erratic he plays on the back end. Like, I just wonder, do they bring a guy like Faber to get him a little experience, because thinking a year later at the Olympics, he's probably in the mix for an Olympic spot. It'll be interesting to see how Bill Guerin, how he does it.
Yeah, and also reading more into Frank's article here, like some of the also considered, like Neil Pionk, he's having a great season too. He would be a super interesting name to see on that roster.
But he, to me, like, he plays similar. Like, he's not a better offensive guy than Quinn Hughes. He's not a better two-way defenseman than Sanderson. He's not more offensive than Fox. Like, I'm just thinking mix. Like, this isn't an all-star team. It's supposed to be a team.
Ryan McDonough is someone that's left off. But the thing that I've been arguing, I've talked to Vic a lot about it, and G, I'm curious in your opinion. Like, you know, I think right now there's a focus on picking the best team where, G, you even said it, it's best on best. Like, I want to see the best. I don't care about the best team and the right guys. Like, I want to see the most talent that we can see. Like, to me, this is really an exhibition tournament. Like,
so do you think Tom Wilson should make Team Canada then?
What do you mean? I don't think Tom Wilson is considered in best on best. I think Tom Wilson's having a great year and would be a good fit for a good team, but I wouldn't put Tom Wilson in the category for best on best players when it comes to Team Canada. Like, I want to see the most skill. I want to see, like, the flair. This is replacing the All-Star weekend. Like,
you're gonna see the flair though. Like, I feel like it's like Team USA putting Vincent Trocheck on the team. I love that. Like, Vincent Trocheck's a fourth line guy that you need guys like that. And I love the idea of building a team as opposed to just throwing the most skilled best guys out there, because that's not going to give us the best games.
100%.
I want to see a physical, intense. I want to see Tom Wilson.
You want that. Yeah, you say you want that, and then you got to remember, like, this is in the middle of an NHL season. You want your best players.
Buddy, I don't give a shit. The Bruins probably aren't going to go on a run this year. This is my Stanley Cup final. We're partying at the greatest bar like it's Game 7 of the Cup final before that USA-Canada game. I'm excited.
So you see Marchand going Game 7 balls to the walls. You're not going to be a little concerned that he gets hurt or tired if Boston's first place in the division?
Johnny, it's sad. It's sad you don't have the American pride that Colby and I have, because there'd be nothing better than seeing America beat Canada in Boston, my home city, with the greatest bar, my family's bar, right outside the arena. That would be the best thing in the world. I've seen the Bruins win the Cup, 2011. I know you haven't seen the Rangers win one, but I want to see USA win this.
Johnny was born in 96, right? Yeah, he was not on this planet for the Cup.
Is the final in Boston or is it in Montreal?
Listen, a US-Canada final would be a dream, and those players would play that game like a Game 7. I think the countries would get up.
It would be so good for
The
hockey
chicken
too.
fingers at the greatest bar will just be passed out left and right.
Incredible.
Best chicken fingers you can get, by the way, around the garden at the
Elite.
greatest bar. I spent a lot of nights in that bar throughout my college days. But look, it should be pretty awesome, and we'll revisit it, and we're gonna talk about this, and we're gonna talk about Canada, because maybe we'll get into Canada a little bit tomorrow, because it's hard not to look at the talent that they have and their team. And Merles makes a great point, as he always does. Merles knows how to chime in with the great points.
You need to have Merles on here, because Merle sent a great video to our Chiclets group chat today about how the Bruins are playing. The reason the Bruins are losing right now is because they're all playing with two hands on the stick. He sent an in-depth 2.5-minute breakdown pointing out each player, two hands on the stick. You got to get him on here.
He's been on. I think he's been on a couple times, actually.
Yeah, we've had Merles.
Merles knows, open invite.
Merles is a friend of the show. Army's a friend of the show. Hey, Army and I were texting until like 1 or 2 in the morning last night. He was fine. I bet you were.
He was fired up.
Yeah, we were probably getting a lot of those. I was just hitting him with data points left and right all night. It was
those guys have been more reliable than you on this show. This is your first time on here.
Pennsylvania residents, we were fired up for sure. So, this was a hell of a first visit to the show. We kept you probably much longer than we said we would, but that's kind of our thing.
Don't let them go just yet. We got to hear about Chiclets University. What you got coming up?
We didn't ask you about Chiclets U. You've got the Army hat on. Let's give us the details.
The video was incredible.
I thought we were going to talk about BU getting swept by Michigan this weekend. No talk of that.
Disappointing, man. Disappointing. I'm a little worried about my Terriers. BC. I mean, juggernaut. There's a couple juggernauts in Hockey East. Maine too. Maine is sick too. Yep. Wait, how about this? Ready? I just got my first 2 assignments. I've got Boston College at Providence here in like 2 weeks. And then the following month, Denver at Alfond Arena in Orono, Maine. That could be like a 1-2, 2-3 in the country matchup. That building will be insane. I heard that's the craziest place in college hockey to play a game. They're just, I think Will Smith said they were throwing condoms at him at one point. Like, it just gets bananas in there, especially the fact that they're redoing the facilities. So I can't wait to get up there with Benny Barr, do a Chiclets University episode up there, and really check out Alfond. But you mentioned Army. What a different video it was than compared to the previous videos we made. And that's kind of where we're thinking heading into this Chiclets U this season. Was we don't want to just especially coming off, North Dakota was the last video we did. So the next video had to be something different, because if we just kind of rolled out they have amazing weight room here, and they have this amazing nothing's going to compare to North Dakota. I mean, they have a high altitude room just for when they play Denver and Colorado College. So unreal.
So Army I don't know, at the end when we did that Trail of the Fallen hike, when we kind of cut it up, but when Mikey Sacco, and shout out to Johnny, actually, a big reason this video happened was because Johnny hit me up, connected me with Mikey Sacco, who's the captain of Army, and we kind of got things going. But yeah, so when Mikey made that speech, and then Coach makes the speech, and I love America. I've always had the utmost respect for the troops, especially the people who've gone overseas, who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So when you're standing up there and you see these rocks, with these names on them from Vietnam, from World War II, you see their dog tags. You're you get emotional. You're wow, it's so much bigger than hockey here. It's moving. It's cool. It's awesome. And then just being around the campus, and what's really cool, I think, is Army is very, for example, St. John's Prep, big high school in Massachusetts, and in Catholic Memorial, another big powerhouse hockey school in Massachusetts. They're going to Army to play a game. They're going to stay on campus. They're going to do the tour. If you're a high school coach, college coach, you're a pro coach. I know the Florida Panthers were just there. I've heard stories of from Witt about how the Pittsburgh Penguins would go every season before
Yeah.
the season they'd go there. If you're a coach, reach out to Army, reach out to Coach Riley, reach out to that program and get your boys there, get your team there, because you step on campus and you're just instantly like, I am far less superior than these people. These people are better humans than me. It makes you want to like, just like leaving there. I'm like, I'm going to be a better human. I'm going to go work out tomorrow morning. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. and make my bed. And it's crazy. And one of the, I'm kind of rambling here.
You're good. You're good.
But one of the craziest parts was Mikey Sacco's school day. So like we got there and he had classes 7 to 10. We filmed from like 10:30 to 2. At 2, he was like, yeah, I have to go to this class called like combative. I'm like, oh, what's that? He's like, we go and fist fight basically for an hour and a half. Like, that's crazy. After combative, he had underwater survival, where they throw you in the water in a pool with all your gear on, and you have to swim through these rings, like these rings that are in the water with your gear on while someone's trying to like kill you. And then this kid goes to practice. Then he goes to the team lift. Then after the team lift, he takes us on a 2-mile hike. And I'm like, this is now 9:00, end of the day. And I'm like, dude, like, now what? Like, and he's like, go to homework, go do some homework, go to bed. It's like it's just an insane day. These guys are insane human beings. He did the IOCT challenge, which I was sore for a week. I got it, did not complete. He did it twice just to show me what it was. So it's like, these guys are they're superior human beings.
Well, first off, Zach McKelvey is going to take over next year, and he's going to do an incredible job. People that know him, I had the great fortune of playing with him, and he's just unreal guy. 2 players on our Titans junior team in my area that I work with and coach. We have 2 commits going to West Point next year, and it makes sense. One is the captain. He's 5'7". He's hands down the toughest player we have on the team. The other one is a defenseman, and he's like one of the smartest, most cerebral kids on the hockey team. He's kind of set himself up as our number 1 defenseman as of late. And it's not surprising getting to know them. That's where these 2 guys are going. And then I'll just say one more thing. I laughed at Singsy's comment in the chat. He said, I tried so hard to get into Army, but I kept scoring too high on the test, so I had to go to Air Force. So I work with the Flyers Warriors on Sundays and above, and I know you guys have done stuff with the Warriors. Our Philly guys talk about Chiclets and you guys all the time, but it's an incredible group of human beings that did incredible things in their lives, and we owe way more than people are willing to think or talk about with these types of people.
And the Riley family history is really cool too, G, that you highlighted on also. Like, I had the privilege of playing with Brendan and Jack, Coach Brian Riley's sons at Mercyhurst. So whenever Mercyhurst, we went back to Army to play against Army, it was always cool. It was like a Riley Bowl, and it was like a very family, oriented feeling in those games. Actually funny, Brendan Riley was one of my roommates my senior year, and we collided at Tate Rink, and he was like so pissed at me for like getting in his way because like he had all.
Didn't he score like 3? Didn't he score a hat trick?
Jack had a hat trick once. Yeah, Jack had a hat trick in one of those games. But yeah, Brendan and I laugh about that for sure.
But if you're like a recruit out there and like, you're, I don't want to say a borderline D1 player, but if pro hockey isn't on the table for you, take a long, hard look at Army. I wish I could include salaries of people who played at Army or now just in the workforce.
Killing it.
They're killing it. They're killing life. Like this school sets you up, not just how it trains your mind to be a better human, but the connections, the network opportunities, the job opportunities that you will get when you leave Army. It's unbeatable. It's completely unbeatable.
One of the leaders of the program of the Flyers Warriors is a West Point guy. His name is Kevin Emore. one of the brightest individuals I've ever been around, someone that I always call when I'm unsure about politics, when I'm unsure about business. He just has such a smart, centered point of view on a lot of things in life because he's traveled the world. He's worked for the DOJ. Like, he's done so many things that his experience is just so far and above what I can even comprehend. And he's such a brilliant guy. He's one of the smartest people that I lean on at times for questions and things like that. So, and he's a good hockey player too. I mean, he's getting older now, but he's a good hockey player. Especially when his hips allow it, with our Warriors team.
Colby, what'd you think of the Shift Hockey commercial and the Johnny's acting skills?
I got a lot of compliments on that, by the way.
He was just good. Complaining about if he was getting paid or not. So my
I paid him. I paid him out of my pocket.
He's stirring the shit. He's stirring the pot.
He didn't really say that. No, look, I thought it was. I love how much you include Jonny in things. It makes me just to know there's somebody in New York that's looking out for him a little bit when push comes to shove. I love that you do that for him.
Colby, you'll get a kick out of this. So, like, in this scene where we're like, all right, Jonny, like, just rip me, dude. Just, like, give it to me here. And Johnny's just such a nice little prick where he's just like, he couldn't do it, dude. He's like, no, I don't want to say that. And I'm like, no, like, I know you don't mean it, Jonny, but it's part of the video. Like, it's your lines. Like, just call me a loser. And he's like, gee, I love you, dude. Like, I can't do that. I'm like, I get it. I fucking get it, Jonny, but you just call me a loser. Like, we need the shot of you calling me a loser, and he couldn't do it. So it was fun. It was a fun day though.
When he dunks on me, right? Or he'll interrupt. I'm like, just argue back. It's okay. Like, it makes me proud of him.
You're not a controversial guy.
When he pushes back, I get proud of him. I really do. G, do you have more time? Like, can you stay on with us for another 10 minutes? Or
yeah.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of other topics from the games last night, like a couple of reverse, referee calls and things like that. And Jonny and I were straight up yelling at each other, arguing about this before the show started. So, like, I want to get into this with you here because I want to get your opinion. And obviously the chat will give their opinion too. Maybe, like, I felt like I was speaking Swahili when I was like trying to get Jonny to understand my
Swahili.
I don't know. I probably made that up.
No, my friends used to say that in middle school. Like, what is that?
It's a language.
Swahili.
My parents would yell at me and be like, "Am I speaking in Swahili? Do you not understand what I'm saying?" So let's show this. So there was an offsides that Jonny can't wrap his head around, and social media apparently couldn't wrap their head around. And what I'm trying to explain to Jonny here is like, Noel Acciari right now has 1 foot on the ice and 1 foot off the ice. Go back to the picture, Vic.
Yeah, top left of your screen.
Once Acciari leaves the ice, if it's before Raquel skates over the blue line, okay, it's onside because Acciari's no longer on the ice. And I don't understand what's so hard for Jonny.
What's the argument, Jonny?
He can't wrap his head around this.
He's off the ice
because he changed offside.
The player is in the zone before the puck.
Yeah, but he
gets off the ice.
Exactly.
But that player to me should have to be the one to like tag up before it's good.
No,
you can't just. I feel like you can't just have a new player come on. Like, gee, I mean, Colby, this was my argument. How many coaches have you had that said make sure you change onside? Like, he's not changing onside there.
Yes, but that doesn't go for the player leaving the ice. That goes for the player jumping on the ice is change onside. Like, what?
I never had any coach tell me to change onside.
Really,
Jonny?
That's
why
like
can't you come? Chat, weigh in here. Am I insane? Because like Jonny can't understand why it's by the time Acciari's second foot comes off the ice, he's no longer in play, and why this is perfectly offside.
Yeah, I'm on Colby's side here. I don't understand it. I don't understand your argument, Jonny.
Didn't they change the rule too to where if you're carrying the puck over the blue and 1 foot's in, 1 foot's over the blue, that's now like offside? It used to be you can have it over the blue if it's not touching, it's good. But I think they changed it to if your foot's in the air,
all the way to the top. Okay, the blue line is not just flat. You have to think of the blue line as 3D.
I know, and it used to be.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about with this play.
Well, you're saying the foot in the air.
I'm saying once Acciari's does not have a foot on the ice, he's no longer in play. He's out of play. So as long as Raquel doesn't enter the zone, By the time Achari's second foot comes up, it's like,
yeah, I don't even I can't believe you guys even had like an argument that lasted longer than 30 seconds about this. Like he's off the ice. In the chat's all over the place. It's like he's right, he's wrong, he's right, he's wrong.
Well, Singsy, are we sure Johnny played college hockey? Is Amherst a real school? I didn't ref college hockey, Singsy.
That's Singsy. I literally said to him, how do you not get this? You played Division I hockey. You got to know the basics of the rules.
I'm just like, I don't know. I watched it and I had a hard time like figuring out why it was
too much time at Houston Hall this weekend trying to wheel 21-year-olds, Johnny. That's your problem. 23-year-olds. Sorry.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we cleared that up because to me, it's not really complicated. And for the people that are saying that it's offside and that
Patrick Waugh was livid on the bench last
Johnny, night. You're not living in reality because like this isn't my opinion. This is like how it works. And I'll read the rule to everybody that's audio only. And this was put out by the National Hockey League. The explanation: the Situation Room examined 2 events prior to Sidney Crosby's goal. The puck first contacted the shaft of Richard Rakell's stick in the neutral zone. And secondly, Noel Acciari had both skates off the ice for a legal line change prior to the Richard Rakell entering the attacking zone. Ricard Rakell, sorry.
Yeah, why do you call him Richard?
Because I'm just reading something and I'm not like thinking as, I'm just trying to read and not sound like Billy Madison.
There's no H there though. You're not reading it right.
Therefore, it's a good goal. Like, don't deflect here, Johnny.
He's deflecting. He's deflecting.
Guy can't even read.
All right, so we're all in agreement here, Johnny.
Yeah.
All right, sure. I'll let you say bye-bye to your friend. I know you're upset. Like, say bye-bye to your friend.
No, because honestly, I've asked you to come on this show 5 times, and he tried once, and it didn't work, so he hasn't been able to come on.
I don't remember that, G. Do you?
It was when we were doing.
I have no recollection of.
We were using OBS, and G was trying to get in, and we couldn't get him in. It was like when we first started this show.
Yes, I do. I tried coming on, and it wouldn't like pop me in or something.
Yeah, we had a lot of issues with our like behind the scenes technology when we first started the show and we switched platforms. But
Vic's dialed now, baby, not anymore.
Yeah, I don't recall. I don't recall.
No, yeah, he said yes right away, and then I asked him like 5 times since, and there's always been some excuse.
I'm a busy guy. Wednesdays work great for me. Biz is on TNT on Wednesdays, so there's not as much going on in the Chiclets land. So Wednesdays are usually my day.
You want to blade later?
I don't know, Johnny. I don't know if I want to hang out with you today.
You're a lot for this. What's your next college Chiclets U that you're doing? Have you announced that yet?
Yeah, so we went to Michigan. We filmed at Michigan last weekend. It was really cool. Jacob Truscott, the captain, showed us around. I mean, Michigan's Michigan. It kind of speaks for itself. Yost Arena is so historic. I got to do a probably 40-minute sit-down interview with Red Berenson, which is awesome.
He's an
Coach Nar.
Huh?
Yeah, Coach Nar I was drinking a beer during it. He didn't really like that. Coach Nar was awesome. Sat down with Eric Nystrom for a bit. Got to go to the football game. Got to go to the big house. It was on the field. It was my first college football game.
Go to the Brown Jug or no?
Oh, we hit. Yeah. We hit the Brown Jug. We hit Rick.
Did you meet Perry Perikos, the Greek guy who owns it?
Is that the guy who does the flip cup against you?
Oh yeah, you would. Perry's got a real thick Greek accent. He's the owner. He's like a Michigan legend. He builds.
I don't think I met him.
Okay, yeah, he owns Blue Leprechaun. He owns the library. He owns the Brown Jug. They're all his places.
What a school! It's just one of those. Every time I do one of these Chiclets universities now, I think Penn State was one of them. Michigan, you're just leaving and you're like, I can't believe I chose to go to school in upstate New Hampshire. Over Michigan, over Penn State. But yeah, that Michigan video should come out probably 2-3 weeks, and then we're hitting Michigan State in a week or two. So it'll be Michigan.
Big up and coming. Big, like they're coming. They're not up and coming anymore. They're here. Like their program is back.
I think we're doing the tour with Isaac the Iceman Howard too. So
turtleneck in the draft.
Turtleneck.
I like his he's got personality. Yeah, I love that.
And I mean, I've heard their facilities are absolutely incredible.
Well, they did them.
Yeah, Torrey Krug was telling me he played there. He's like, I want to rehab there. That's how nice it is.
Yeah.
It's better than most NHL facilities.
Yep. I remember when Torrey
sick.
came from there. Geez, yeah, Torrey is he's one of the best kids that I saw come out of there for a long time.
Yeah, he jumped right into the Bruins. That was awesome.
Yeah. We all watched him go up the depth chart as we all fell down the depth chart. And we were like, but this kid's really good, so there's nothing we can do.
Just an awesome guy too.
Gee, the last thing I want to hit you with, and then I'll let Jonny probably ask the last question. I know you've been promoting that some of that gear with the pink like lettering for breast cancer awareness. Obviously, that's near and dear to your heart. I don't know if you just want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, dude. Yeah, so my girlfriend, my fiance now, and my mom were both diagnosed with breast cancer this past year. So it's been a pretty tough year for me and my family. So we with October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we decided to raise some money. And we created some Spit and Chiclets, basically breast cancer awareness merch. Shot at a cure is the phrase we're going with. And we were kind of thinking about where do we donate this money to? There's so many good foundations. There's so many, so much more money can always be donated to cancer research. But there was this one foundation in particular called Breasties that really, really helped my fiance. It's a foundation, but it's a community where they connect you with. So it's a foundation for women that have been diagnosed with gynecological and breast cancer, and it connects you with women in that world that for example, like when Alana was diagnosed with breast cancer, when she comes to me, I don't have boobs, right? So to be able to have that conversation with me about her cutting her boobs off and losing her hair, I'm just like, a guy's just gonna be like, oh, hair will grow back, you'll get you'll get some fake bombs, like who cares, don't worry about it. What she needed was to talk to someone who had went through that before, who was 28 years old, was diagnosed at the same time as her, someone that she could relate to. And that's what Breasties does. So Breasties connects you with people in that world. And, it helped her connect with a company that got her a wig, and wigs are really expensive. And there's so many things that this foundation has done for her. And so we're donating 100% of net proceeds from the month of October to Breasties. And then was talking to Alana the other day, and the fight against breast cancer doesn't stop in October, right? Like these ladies fight every single day. So November, Hockey Fights Cancer. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it on sale for another month, and let's cut them a big old check at the end of the month. There's nothing that would make me happier this season than Bruins, Team USA. We talked about all that, but being able to present Breasties with a huge check at the end of November, that would be amazing. So I appreciate you guys asking about it. It's been really tough, but she's turned the corner. She's a beast. She has her final surgery tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow is her final surgery. She's back to herself again. So it's
she looks great. Honestly, seeing her at the Lulu event, like she looks great.
Yeah, Jonny, she wants to set you up with one of her friends. She was like, "Is Jonny single? We gotta connect him with one of my girls."
Oh boy,
it's the Jewish girl, right?
Yeah,
that'll make for a great story. Please set that up, and then we'll have her on to tell us the story, because our loyal listeners do follow Jonny's love life. We put the link for Barstool's collection that goes all towards this. We put that in the chat. So, again, we know it's your hard-earned money. If you have it and you can do it, get some stuff, because it directly affects people that are in your everyday life. And you hear G talking about it. We know how big and important these guys are for hockey. So they support hockey. We support them. We support their causes. It kind of helps everything go round and round. So we appreciate you talking about it, man. It can't be that easy. Like when it's this personal, it can't really be that easy. So appreciate you talking about it.
Of course. And you guys know how you guys have been in this hockey world forever. So you guys know how supportive and how everyone can kind of come together and lift you up. And I've really felt and Alana has really felt the support the past few months. So we can't thank everyone enough. Everyone in the chat right now, I see all the kind words, and Singsy posting that, did a little photo shoot in the breast cancer merch the other day. And
Yeah,
he's a handsome bastard, that Singsy. So it definitely made a difference. And I can't thank you guys enough for bringing it up. And it's like I said, just the fight against cancer. It's an everyday battle. It's breast cancer. It doesn't just end in October. So keep these ladies in mind. They gotta battle every day. So
obviously, I kind of wanted to end on that, but I'm also just curious, and I feel like our chat would be curious, and I kind of just want to get more personal with you for our chat listeners. Because I feel like sometimes when you listen to Chiclets, you guys obviously talk a lot of hockey, and Biz and Wit, they'll tell their stories of playing, but you guys don't always necessarily talk about yourselves, let's say, and kind of the pinch me moments that you've gotten from doing this. And obviously,
he doesn't talk about himself. The other guys they're willing to.
Well, I meant like the pinch me moments. Like, it's still sometimes when you're in this, it's hard to like take a step out and like realize what you've done and who you've talked to and things you've seen. And I'd be kind of curious to ask you. I don't even know if I've asked you this like off air ever, G. Like, have you had something lately where you're sitting there and it's like, holy shit, like I just spoke to this guy, or I just saw this game, or I just did this thing.
I would say lately not as much, because I've been doing this for 8 years now. Yeah. You kind of grow numb to it, but there's and it's funny, like I grew up, like I said earlier, like my dad had that bar, right? The greatest bar. So growing up, there was always NHL players, TV personalities in there. So I was, from a young age, I've been pretty like accustomed to meeting like famous people, I guess. Like at least like in Boston, like I would meet all the Bruins. I would meet, I'd meet Jack Edwards and Brick. And like, so these guys that were my heroes, I had met them. So I understood kind of what it was like. I think the first time, so I have a few, my first day of work, I think, just like, this is going to sound so lame, but like, I remember playing knee hockey in my basement, pretending to be Ryan Whitney. Like Ryan Whitney slap shot from the point. Like I vividly remember saying that. So then like the first day when Whit walked in, and I don't know if he'll get pissed at this story, but the first day Whit walked in and he sits down, and him and RA are like whispering about something, and they're like, dude, like, do you mind if we like smoke a joint before we record? And I was like, I actually have 2 pre-rolled in my car right now. And he was like, I love you. And then I'm just like, I'm like, this guy was my hero. And now I'm like about to record a podcast. Not my hero, but like,
yeah,
it was just a cool moment. And it was like one of my first days. But there's a really good story I have about Halifax. So Sidney Crosby brought us to Halifax. The first time we interviewed him and Nate McKinnon. We did it at his favorite bar he loves to go to. We did a Sandbagger. It was like kind of where the Sandbagger like originated. But he took us out to dinner that night, and it was really cool. So you guys know, like, how sometimes you go out to dinner and like the big dogs, the talkers are down one end of the table, right? Like that's where the conversation is. That's where the energy is. That's how it was. One end of the table is Nathan McKinnon, Whit, Biz, Sidney Crosby. Then the other end of the table, then the other end of the table is me, like Pasha, the camera guys. Like we're kind of just chilling there, and I'm not thinking anything of it. And halfway through dinner, I was sitting next to him. He's kind of facing down here. He fully turns his body to me, back to the boys, and he's like, Mike, tell me about yourself. How'd you get into Barstool? I heard you're from Boston. How'd you get the job with Chiclets? Did you play hockey growing up? And you're just like, what? You're like, why do you care? Like, I hated you growing up. I hated you so much. And now, like, you're just like the best guy in the world. You're so awesome. And you're such a guy's guy. And now I'm drinking beers with you. And what a cool guy. What a cool moment. And then it was cool because a few years later.
Played hockey growing up, by the way? That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Johnny, before we fucking filmed this video, he's like, Mike, did you play hockey? I was like, are you fucking kidding me, Johnny? Like, yeah, I
I
played
said
hockey.
competitive hockey. I said competitive.
Yeah, I played competitive hockey, dude. What the fuck?
Sorry, keep going.
But yeah, that was with Sid, that was really cool. And then there's one more. There was one more, and it was when we interviewed Wayne Gretzky. I booked the hotel. Like I handle like kind of the hotels, kind of that aspect of when we're traveling. And a lot of the times we have to book a suite to do the interviews in, and I'll just stay in the suite just to make it easier so we don't have to book another room. So we had the suite, there was a minimum on the hotel room. So we had to book it for like 3 nights. So I had to stay an extra night in Atlanta. So I was staying in the hotel. I go down to the hotel bar to have a drink. Who do I run into? Trevor Gretzky. And, next thing you know, we have a drink or two. And he gets a call from his dad. And his dad's finishing up the shift at TNT. And he's coming back to the hotel. And Trevor gets off the phone, looks at me, and he's like, do you want to go have some beers with my dad up in his hotel room when he gets back? And I'm like, yep, absolutely. So I got to go up to Wayne's room, have a a beer or two with him, and listen to him tell stories. And Talkett was in there, and it was we got to the bottom of like Rick Talkett and RA's Twitter beef from like 2012, and it was it was pretty. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, it was just that was one of those moments too. And then obviously the Boston live show. I think that was just like the best day of my life.
Yeah. Well, awesome, G. I mean,
stuff I've never heard before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I don't know if a lot of people have heard that before. And I think a lot of the people, they consume a lot of these different shows and stuff like that. So it's always nice to get some original stories, and hopefully Witt's not mad, and hopefully if he is mad, he doesn't point any of it towards me, because we need his help with our collective at BU. So I don't want him to be mad at me.
You need those Pink Whitney dollars coming in.
He's a high up the target list, and from what I understand, he actually really wants to be involved, and I know he's talked to some of the other guys that are involved, which is awesome, because again, his voice is you can't like, there isn't bigger voices. Like, there really just isn't. The traditional TV medium is not the biggest voice anymore. It's just not how it works. So hopefully he's not mad at you. And if he is, that's on you, not on me.
And if it's actually pretty crazy though, because when I joined Chiclets, Witt was the age that I am right now. Or 1 year apart. So it's crazy that.
How old are you?
I'm 31, turning 32.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, it's crazy. Chiclets fans have kind of seen me grow up, from 23
8 years. Those are pivotal years.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Go back and listen to the early episodes. Right before I started dating my now fiance, I went on a spring break trip where like me and Biz made a bet on the air that I would get like 6 kills in the week. I'm like, Jesus, what a loser I was.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, look, we've got a couple of other things we got to get to, some betting stuff before we say goodbye. Yeah. I mean, we never really talked about the games last night, because this just took us in a different direction, which is the beauty of doing an everyday live show. Sometimes we just end up in a different direction. So great having you on today, man. We covered so much. We'll definitely be asking you to come on again now that we know Wednesday's a good day.
I won't be.
I'll be the one who asks you. Don't worry. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon, man. We really will. And keep up the great work. Keep Chiclets U bumping, man. That's some of my favorite videos on the internet.
Thank you, boys. Yeah, right when this show ends, go check out Chiclets University on the Chiclets YouTube channel. Barstoolsports.com/Chiclets is where you can buy this breast cancer merch. 100% of net proceeds are going to breasties. It will make a difference. I love you guys. Thank you for having me on.
All right.
Love you, G. Thank you. Appreciate it. That was awesome. Did not expect him to stay on for a full hour, so very nice of him to do that. Colby, do you even want to get into these reviews really, or just kind of do Bet365 and go from there? I mean, the one that was,
yeah. I think we've kind of gone today. Let's hit Bet365 and say goodbye to everyone. And I'm sure tomorrow will bring us some new interesting topics to close out the week.
So tonight's bet of the day presented by Bet365. We're going to go with our friend of the show and the Chicago Blackhawks, Pat Maroon, and the Blackhawks on the money line. They're home dogs against the Red Wings. Chicago has actually won 3 out of their last 4. Detroit's lost 3 out of their last 4. Pat was telling us yesterday he's going to do what he can to get on that headset tonight and give a shout out to the boys on TNT. Kind of love the way the Blackhawks are playing right now, even though we are currently on a 2-game skid. We've lost our last 2 bets in a row. Not a good week so far for us, but we're hoping Pat and the Blackhawks pull through tonight on home ice at the United Center. So we're going with the Blackhawks money line. Any thoughts?
Stay hot, Chicago. Maybe Lucas Reichel and Pat Maroon and Craig Smith will continue to produce. And we'll be looking for our guy Alex Vlasic to see if he comes back with another couple of strong games, because there's a lot of buzz about him right now around the National Hockey League. And I know the organization itself is really excited as to what is going on with him. But it was a good show today, Johnny. I know we kind of zigged and zagged a little bit and we went all over the place with G. We appreciate everybody who's not a Bruins fan and who probably wasn't dying to hear that much Bruins talk. But look, it's a story. It is. Obviously, we didn't hit on a lot of the games. The Kings had a statement win last night. The Sabres had a good win. The Flyers game, I was following it a little bit on my phone. Obviously, I said I really didn't watch hockey last night, so I don't want to get detailed about highlights. That's like one of my pet peeves in life. But it did seem like that game was a total roller coaster ride. And then the Tampa Bay Lightning just went 0-3 on a road trip, which is uncharacteristic of them to have 3 games in a row like that.
Well, back to what you said before, I see D. Ely in our chat, loyal listener, talking about the Canes winning 7 in a row. And we'll get into the Canes tomorrow because Marty Necas obviously has been a huge story. But, Carolina is a team that people were sleeping on, I feel like, before the year because they had a lot of changeover and whatnot. So we'll do more Carolina Hurricane stuff tomorrow, D. Ely, I promise. We're going to give them the love that they deserve. But with that, I feel like we can wrap up today's show. We'll save that stuff for tomorrow. We'll try to get a guest for tomorrow as well. We'll work on something here, or we can just
not. I think tomorrow I'd rather spend some time really digging in on some of the teams that have been playing well, because we've had a lot of guests this week, and so
yesterday was 3 people.
Again, yesterday we had 3 people today. We hope you loved that John Goyen segment. I can tell you guys all this. We will be starting to have a regular, probably every other week, Coach's Room segment. It will be different than what he does on DFO Live. So don't worry, we're not going to be recycling his segment. He's going to come on and do a fresh segment with us every other week now. And I hope you guys like it. Personally, I think Goyens is like a wizard with that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty excited that he's agreed to come on and do that a little bit more. So we hope everybody enjoys their day. Don't forget what I said, be a gracious loser or a humble winner today, because a lot of people are probably really upset, and a lot of people, there's a lot of people really happy, a lot of people really upset. I remember being on the other side of this, and so I hope I hope the people who are happy stay humble about it. I'm going to be humble about it. And the sun will, everything will be normal tomorrow, 9 a.m. hockey. Like Johnny and I will be dialed in tonight. Sorry. I feel bad. I didn't watch hockey last night. So, we'll be dialed ready to go tomorrow. Eh, Johnny?
Yep. We'll be, ready to go. I think there's 3 games on tonight, but I'll be watching TNT for sure. Love the TNT broadcast and don't get to watch it every week. So I'll be dialed into the Blackhawks and the Red Wings. We got the Predators and the Capitals. That'll be a game to tune into as well. Actually, that one's at 7. So you get that first period before the Red Wings start and the Blackhawks start. And then 8:30, you got Vegas and Edmonton. So actually 3 pretty solid matchups tonight. So it should be a good night of hockey. But we'll wrap up today's show. Big thanks to Mike Grinnell. Big thanks to Vic, as always, and we love you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.